and welcome along to the next stop in the NGK and NTK Esports Cup of 2024. With 4 races down in the season, we are rushing towards the halfway point in what has been a couple of very enthralling rounds to build out the championship at Zolder and Aragon. We now head to Imola for round 3 of the season. As you can hear, I am not Connery, nor am I Arjuna. I'm Lewis McGlade, and this time I'll be joined in the comedy booth by Jack Styles. Hello, how's things? And let's get into this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm familiar with the series. It's been great so far to watch the drivers over the first 2 rounds. Some excellent racing all the way through, and I'm sure Imola will be exactly the same. It's a fantastic circuit. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great evening of racing.
Yeah, exactly. And, for the viewers that have kind of jumped in, obviously we'll talk about the format a little bit in detail in a few moments' time, but, to briefly touch on it, you've got that reverse grid race. You've got so many drivers that have built their way into this. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's an excellent lot of fun. The reverse grid in the second race sort of shakes things up a bit. If you have a poor first race, it gives you the chance to get back into it. So it's a fantastic format. All the drivers, the feedback has been very positive. So I think Imola is going to show another great evening.
Let's see the calendar that we've obviously, we already had a couple of rounds. We started out that season at Zolder. We then moved on to Motorland Aragon. We're currently at Imola, race 3 of the season before we go to Hockenheim. Of course, then Rudskogen for the penultimate round of the main season. Oulton parked to round that out, which, by the way, crazy choice. I love that. And then, of course, the Nürburgring to round out the championship. A lot of fun tracks on there, a lot of spice, a lot of entertainment, especially when you compare that to the timetable that we've got and how things roll throughout the evenings. We alluded to the reverse grid race and how things place on that. It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, there are some circuits where you can take advantage of that reverse grid more, that second race, that full reverse grid. Some circuits you can take advantage of it more, like maybe around here, than, say, for example, Oulton Park, where that reverse grid's going to be really, really hard to work your way through.
And I think sort of round 5 Rudskogen is going to be exactly the same story. It's a tight club circuit, which makes it fantastic to race on, but passing is that little bit harder. Of course, Imola, a Formula 1 circuit again in recent years, so passing will be easier in these cars. That long front straight is really going to open up the drafting opportunities. Expect to see a lot of draft trains. Maybe we'll see some bump drafting as well. Could be risky, the fact that the front straight isn't actually straight at Imola, but the calendar is made to give exciting racing, and that final race at the Nürburgring, that's really going to push the drivers to their max. It's a difficult circuit. It's one that I've never been able to master, and we may find drivers who can't, and the person who can will be the driver who can absolutely master that place perfectly. Yeah, exactly. It's a tricky season. It's a tricky calendar and a tricky format as well. Again, we'll go into qualifying in about 15 minutes time before we get into those 2 races. We'll take a look at these standings though and see exactly how things are rolling out. Vince Peters at the top of the championship table after a couple of podiums, but most. And I think that's the important thing, is you've got to play the strategy in the first race. Do you go for the move? Do you go for the slightly preferential starting position for the second race? Obviously, Gal Valero in 3rd place, he had issues in qualifying at Zolder, meant he started at the back for race 1, put him in an excellent position for race 2, towards the front of the grid, but sort of struggled to get through the pack a little bit in race 1, and it's something that you've got to be careful of. Qualifying here, you get 4 laps. We'll talk a bit more about the format as we go through, but it is important to get a good starting point position for race 1, but you have to be clever. The strategy is important, and it's not the standard strategy, Lewis, that we're used to with endurance races. It's a completely different kettle of fish that some of these drivers may never have experienced before.
Yeah, indeed. Which again, I'm loving. A few drivers that I'm noticing also a little bit further down the championship. Jeffrey Lund, who, if anyone remembers from the first round of this season, actually qualified in 3rd position, but has not been able to take much advantage of that. So down in 29th position in the championship, you've got drivers that we're used to seeing at the higher end of things, like Peter Zuber. Some names that I haven't seen for ages, like Sheldon Muscat. So shout out. Obviously, great to see all of that. But then there's the whole. This would be the point where I'd actually throw into the whole sim versus reality thing, because Patricia would normally be with me in commentary. However, she has still prepared the video and has gone through the whole sim racing versus reality. So let's take a look.
The Toyota GR86 was the car for me today. It's super responsive, so it was interesting for me because I didn't expect that from a street car. It's also very lightweight, so you had to manage the rear-wheel drive and the breakouts of the car. So it was quite similar to a sports car actually. I think the real basics, the theory of racing, such as like the braking points, so the ideal line, learning the track and the simple physics of cars are quite similar. And also I prepared today for the track day on the simulator. So for someone who doesn't have any other resources, I think it's the perfect way to get started with racing. I think that the main characteristics of the car are actually quite similar from the simulation to the real car. It's both very agile and responsive, and the driving style I think is comparable. However, you do have the sequential gearbox in the simulation, which you don't have in real life. We had the manual gearbox. And also you have slick tires, which we didn't have, and yeah, a bit more body kit in the simulation, which makes you have a bit more downforce. However, I think both cars are fun and the drivers will enjoy it. I think NGK NTK made the absolute correct decision making it a Toyota Cup, because a Cup is always promising very, very good racing because it highlights the performance of each driver and, you know, makes stuff like BOPs irrelevant. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I think we'll see some intense and tight motorsports.
Well, 10 points in chat if you could tell me what circuit that was that she was driving at in real life, because I haven't seen it in years. Fantastic track, designed by Herman Tilke, by the way. Anyway, focusing on the main point at hand, everything that she was saying in there, Patricia was going over the fact of how the sim to reality kind of thing and how this car translates. I think absolutely spot on. And of course, the whole thing with this cup being a cup series where we're only in the one car and we're in the GR86. Fantastic car to be racing in for this.
And it's fixed setup as well, so the sort of the power is fully with the driver. You are the one who's fastest is simply the driver who can get the most out of this car. And I think, you know, it's a great little car. It's been used in the real world in the last couple of years, and obviously since it's been added to iRacing as well, incredibly popular as you're coming up through the ranks. And I think that shows as well in this series. There's drivers in here, the names that we see in top split special events, but there's drivers as well using this as a development, a way of getting faster and learning from those pros, because sometimes following a pro for a lap, you can learn so much just seeing their lines, their braking points. It's something I've definitely done in the past and something that the drivers in this series can make the most of.
I mean, even just being on the same grid, even seeing the lap time in a fixed setup where everything is completely equal, seeing what a driver of that caliber can pull off with a car, that even just seeing the lap time, because you might go around, you set a lap time that's like a 2-minute 5.7, you think that's actually a really good lap time, and then suddenly they're sapping a 2-minute 2 onto the board. You know there's more work out, you know there's more time out there, and that's kind of what, you know, championships and stuff like this, where they're so kind of important, because the car's not, I don't feel this is the kind of car that's beyond anyone, which is the great thing of a car like this.
No, and you are exactly right in that it's been not beyond anyone. It's accessible to all. Sorry, and it's, you know, a very good learning ground. When I first joined iRacing many years ago now, nearly 8 years ago, I learned in the MX-5, which is very similar to this, and that sort of, it teaches you basic racecraft. It's a car that's resilient. You can get a lot of racing out of this, a lot of close racing as well. You'll see it today all the way through, and I think that's so important for someone, especially as they're developing and seeing how the pros racecraft works, seeing how they go for moves that maybe you wouldn't have thought was possible, but you know, they seem to make it work somehow, and I think that's very helpful when you're coming up through.
Well, it's a small car, but it's still a fairly big track, which thankfully, again, back to Patricia, who, yes, she's not with us in this broadcast, fair enough, but she is still helping us with those VTs, because she's going to bring us a little bit of a track guide, a little bit of a look around this circuit.
Hi guys, my name is Patricia Stalizana. I'm a professional race car driver and also your co-commentator for this year's NGK NTK Esports Cup. We are right now at Circuit Imola, and I will try to give you a quick guide around this track. We are coming onto the lap from the last corner. We will try to minimize the meters on the straight here because we are not so quick in this car, which is why it's worth it to try and cut as much as we can off the track. Here we go, preparing for the first corner. We will be braking at around 100 meters. Shift down to third gear, carry as much speed as we can without going over the sausage curbs. Quick left-hander, carry the speed on the exit onto the straight. Now for this next quick chicane, we will brake without shifting down, go into third gear for the second part of the chicane. And again, try to carry as much speed as you can for this next one, 50 meters, second gear. Very late apex because we are going up the hill and we need to go on full throttle as soon as we can. So late apex, full throttle as soon as possible, taking the speed up the hill. Next corner after the 50-meter board, third gear, carry the speed through the corner, very high minimum speed. Now for this one we commit, no brakes, fourth gear, right-hander, and then we harshly brake, go into second gear. Oh, this one is good. I really like this corner. So we commit fourth gear, we try to carry the speed into the corner and then shift down to second. For the chicane, same thing. Shift down to second, cut the first, and then don't go too much over the second curb because that might give you a two-wheel exit, which will take off the speed for the straight. So try to go through the chicane as smooth as possible. And now for the last corners, after the 50-meter sign, we shift down into second, carry the speed through the corners, and also here we cut as much as we can because we are preparing for a very long straight. So that was a lap around Imola with me. Once again, not my best lap, but it's okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me, and I hope you guys will enjoy watching the race as well.
It's okay. It was still cleaner than most of my laps, so that's fine. Tricky track. I love Imola. It's so much fun, especially in a car like this. You know, you were talking about what we're going to see throughout the race, potentially even some bump drafting on that front stretch, but the risk that comes with it, because obviously there's those, you know, two kinks to the right, one kink back to the left. It's a really tricky little track.
It is, and it's fast. A lot of it is fast. You could really see Patricia in her lap having to commit to the corners. I think the 9-10 section down the hill, that's going to be critical to get right, to carry the speed up towards the 11-12 chicane. So Imola is fun, Imola is amazing, but you have to get it right every single time. If you make a slight mistake, go a little bit deep on the brakes, you're going to lose so much time.
Yeah, I think one thing to really touch on around here is everyone's favourite track limits, which around here actually kind of a deal, especially when you go through Acqua Minerale, that final bit. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to be that kind of guy, I don't want to be a telltale. Pretty sure she would have got a 1x for that run off on the exit of the Acqua Minerale, of that, you know, when you go through that final right-hander through Acqua Minerale and then back up the hill. Pretty sure that would have been a 1x. You've got to be careful with it through the chicane at Variante Alta. A couple of other points to be careful of it and a bit wary going through the exit of the Villeneuve chicane, the second chicane. The point is once you reach 17 incident points in this, you're out. You're done. It's DQ straight away.
Yeah, that 17 incident point limit is tight in this. We have seen drivers disqualified at both of the previous rounds. I think we're going to see it again here today. Imola is tight on track limits, as you say, and I think I would agree there's maybe a couple of track limit infringements from Patricia in her lap guide, but I think that's going to be so important for the race, is getting those track limit right. It could be the most successful driver today. Lewis is the driver who minimizes those incident points.
I think so. No, I absolutely agree. I think keeping out of trouble around here, as we can see the championship leader Vince Peters on our screen now down into that final sector. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think keeping out of trouble around here is going to be the most important bit as practice comes to a close. Just gotta, yeah, so it sounds so easy. Just gotta qualify well, keep it towards the front end of the grid, and keep out of trouble. Easier said than done. Getting a lap time on the board around here is gonna be really tricky.
Easier said than done indeed. We can see the 4 car really warming up those front tyres. You don't want to put too much. It's 4 laps for qualifying. You don't want to take all all of your life out of the tyre on the first one. Keep it a little bit and make sure you hold it for the end. Alexander Thebe watching as he heads down into the first chicane. And you are right, Lewis, getting that lap on the board is going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of banker laps for the first times, and then we're going to start to see the fast times coming through. I'm not sure people are going to be taking the risk on that first lap.
No, you've got to get a lap time onto the board. You know, when we said about track limits being a thing in here, and yes, whilst we were mostly talking about the race, in that when it comes to qualifying, obviously, you know, you breach track limits, that lap time is thrown into the bin. Really important to get a lap time onto the board. Because as well, one other thing, you know, to kind of touch on a little bit around here is the lap is quite long. You know, compared to the other circuits we've been to, Zolder, it was 1:44. Was the pole time that Alexander Thebe set. Vince Peters set a pole time at Aragon, which is 1:15. This is a long lap comparatively to that practice. You're talking 2 minute fours.
Yeah, I've seen laps in the 2 minutes. I think it's been very close to getting under that 2 minute mark. We could see a 1:59. I think I might have saw a couple of 2 minutes, unless I was misreading my screen.
I think 2 minute fours. 2 minute fours.
2 minute fours. Okay, it's been a long day. I can't read.
No, you're
so it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, Aragon, we ran the club layout. It was excellent racing, but very fast and furious laps. Here, it's going to be a little bit more methodical, with it being that longer lap, as you said. We don't have the choice of different configurations here like we do at other circuits, purely because it is a Grand Prix circuit with no changes. Imola is one of these classic circuits where you have one configuration and that's it.
Look at the concentration on Vince Peters' face, getting ready for what I'm sure he's well aware will be a very important qualifying lap time. Our championship leader at the moment, and by what feels like a fairly comfortable margin. But you know, when you're talking 4 races down, you know, two rounds down in a 6-round calendar before we even get to the grand finale at the Nürburgring, you can't count your chickens, especially around a circuit like this. The moment that you do, the moment that you get a little bit too comfortable on that is the moment you get a little bit too complacent. We'll take a look at the lap time with that run down into the first chicane at Tamburello. Just got to get that braking point spot on. So hard to get that braking point right and fully commit through the chicane. Wow, that was brave.
Really using all the curb there is Vince Peters. Excellent to see, and that's what we mean by getting every single inch out of the circuit that you can as he heads down into turn 5 and 6. And I expect to see very similar. Okay, a little bit more reserved on the curbs this time as we ride on board from the driver's view. That must have been close to the 1X there. You can see Vince on the right-hand side, absolutely concentrated. There is nothing in the world that's going to distract him from this lap.
If there was any reaction on his face, I would have said that was a 1X. But the fact of the reaction to what's happening with the car, I think that definitely was a 1X.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought he might have been a bit close at T1 at Tamburello, but clearly managed to avoid that one. So much curb usage. Now, this is what we're saying about pressure, is that when we were talking about this being a 2 minute 4 lap time, with the session being 10 minutes long, yes, they've got 4 laps. They're never getting that. They're not getting those 4 laps onto the board. They've only really got 3 round here. And that just means that every lap time makes a big difference.
That is very true, actually. I hadn't thought of that with it being a 2 minute 4 lap time. And we have seen drivers taking a slower out lap. Alexander Thebe doing a lot of work to get those tyres into the right working window. As we see him down into, I'm going to have to remember my corner names correctly, Aqua Minerale, using the curbs. I think that looked brilliant through there from Alexander. Perfect on exit as well. I think that just about is within track limits here at Imola. So I think he's on for a good lap here. We're going to start seeing times come up on the board very soon as the first cars are exiting the final corner.
Yeah, exactly. See what T was able to do. Obviously, he was on pole position in the first round of the championship back in Zolder, and I believe, I don't want to fully commit to this, but I believe it's still teamless at the moment. Obviously, after you jumping from the likes of Redline over to Urano, and then Urano disappeared at the end of last year. It's championship this way. Maybe you can throw your hat into the ring and move yourself forward up towards the line. Nicholas Nolder with the fastest lap time from the off, but Alexander Thebe is able to put himself towards the top of the timesheets with a 2 minute 4.075. To tell you what was the fastest in practice, Mario Velga was able to set a 2 minute 4.004. I think we will see a 2 minute 3 in this session, especially considering, warming up your tyres, getting into the rhythm in the qualifying. I can't imagine that was fully committed from Alexander Thebe, although I will tell you, he has bailed from his lap.
I would say he's going back. He's going back out on the track, and he's going to reset his car, got a new set of tyres, and he's going to go out, get them into the working window, and go again. He's 3 tenths clear at the top of Nicholas Nolder in the number 8 machine, who's then got another 3.5 tenths over Mario Velgut. So I think the time's not quite there yet. I think we're going to see it a little bit closer at the top, but so far only 8 drivers getting a time on the board. Gal Valero, one of them who hasn't, and a lot of drivers are on their second lap, so I think we've seen some 1Xs on this first lap, Lewis.
Yeah, I think we've seen quite a lot. Once again, we'll refocus on Vince Peters coming down into Acqua Minerale. Sounds like a great corner name until you realise the translation is just mineral water. And he's like, no, that's a bit anticlimactic, isn't it? Out of that, and then up the hill, of course, towards Variante Alta. Like I say, because of that 1X on the first lap, the amount of pressure now that is on this lap for Vince Peters, because when you're the championship leader, you can't afford to be starting at the back of this field.
No, you can't, and you can make your way up through race 1, but it might not put you in the best starting position for race 2. It depends on how many positions you can make up. It is only a 26 car field. It's a little bit smaller than the previous rounds, so a little bit more opportunity for those who do have some issues with qualifying as we ride on boards. Coming through Ravatsa, that is absolutely on the limit, and it looks like it's in track limits. What can Vince Peters do? Swinging it wide to get the best run down the straight. I think he's setting up for a next lap here, Lewis.
I absolutely agree. I don't think he's too worried about the time on this time as he comes across the line. At least he does set one onto the board, but it isn't. Oh, actually, that didn't come through on my screen, so I think he might have had a 1X again on that one, which would make sense as to why he was opening up the straight so much. I wonder how many drivers on this grid we're going to have not with a lap time. I think it's going to be more than one without a lap time in this session. I don't think it's going to be too many, but still, 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 drivers without a lap time. Just a bit of a shock that Vince Peters is one of those without a lap time on the board. But I can tell you now, I'm taking a look. I think it's about 8 or 9 drivers that have yet to set a time, and we only have 2 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in this session. This could be a big moment for qualifying for quite a lot of these.
It's going to be tight. Everyone currently on a lap should get another one in. So Alexander Thebes just started his next lap as well. I think everyone's going to get one more, but it's going to be tight for some drivers. 2 minutes and 21 seconds remaining now in qualifying. Most of the pack is coming through the section of the circuit you're currently looking at with Nicholas Nolder as he heads up towards the Variante Alta. So I think we're going to see another crack at it, Lewis, but I make it around 10 drivers still, 12 drivers potentially still not put a lap time in. Vince Peters, Norbert Lietner, John Aylan, all ones who haven't, and I expect to see them up the front of this grid.
Yeah, but to be fair, what this is also is it's a great opportunity for a lot of drivers if they've not had the greatest season and maybe don't even have the greatest pace. This is where they can maybe sneak an excellent qualifying courtesy of all of that. Naz Adati is coming through the final corner. Can tell you, Gal Valero was able to improve on the previous lap round. Is believe improving on this one, coming up towards the line. 90 seconds left to go, so for a lot of these drivers it'll be their last times crossing the stripe. Let's see what Adati can do heading up towards the line. Any improvement, any advances? Norbert Leitner moves up into 9th position. No improvement from Adati. Here comes Vince Peters, big lap time from him. Is there going to be anything onto the board? Just about 7th place. Well, that delay on the timing update got me a little bit concerned there. Vince Peters, though, only 7th, rather.
And a minute left in qualifying, and something that actually didn't occur to me. This is a solo qualifying session. So once the timer expires, you are done. You get about 3 seconds to finish your laps. So 52 seconds remaining. Everyone's going to be pretty tight. Everyone who now has started their final lap probably won't get a chance to complete it. I think P8 is going to be the best that Vince Peters can do, and I think Alexander Thebe might be safe on that pole position. Yeah, which,
I'm not amazingly shocked by. See if there's going to be any more improvements. See if we can get a 2-minute 3 onto the board. Yeah, we can. A 2-minute 3.868. Incredible stuff here from Alexander Thebe. Setting pole position at the moment by 0.4 of a second. See if there's going to be any further improvement in the next 20 seconds and the final moments of the session. Francesco Saladino coming out through the final complex. That's a big lap time from Thebe, though. To 0.4 on pole position. Mega.
That really is a mega lap from Alexander Thieb. He has given it everything. He's worked out exactly where he can extract the time. Makes me wonder if his 04 flat was a banker lap, but a credible pole position time there for Thieb.
Let's take a look then at the starting grid. Alexander Thieb from that pole position. Gal Valero alongside on the front row of the grid with Nicholas Nolder and Tamas Simon for Veloce Vex. Then we get Velgut, who was the driver that topped the practice session coming into it, and Lynn starting from 6th position on the grid. All of those separated by 0.8 of a second. Absolutely massive. One of the Dura Academy drivers, Alessio Bender, starts from 7th position, with championship leader Vince Peters starting from just 8th place on the grid. Crazy scenes before we get to Muth and then Norbert Leitner inside the top 10 with a lot of work to do for his Impulse team. Adati, we saw the final moments of that qualifying session roll over the line with 11th place, and then John Ellen in 12th position, a few positions behind the teammate, but still with plenty of time to work up. Maturana, of course, the race winner back in the previous race of the season. Of course, Aragon in the reverse grid race with Romero in 14th position, Haflerdarsen 15th, Aloy in 16th position with Makarov and Sarah Dove in 18th, just about within 2 seconds of the pole time. We're seeing some very large gaps around here. Harry Fox still within that 2-second margin, but the last driver to be within it as we get to the back end of the top 20. Mike Barber in 20th position with Struchko in 21st. Sophia Aronwen in 22nd position. And then we get Saladino and then Gladic in 24th. But I can't imagine that those lap times, 4.6, 4.9 seconds off of the pole time. Can't imagine they're too representative of a solid lap time around here. Crazy qualifying session there then. But it is Alexander Thieb who'll be starting it from the pole position. The thing is, though, despite it being a 4/10 margin on pole, on quite a lot of tracks, I'd sit there and be like, that's crazy, he's going to run away into the distance and win. But because this is such a big track, the slipstream availability is so high around here.
I really think that is going to be the key to winning this race. The winner of this race will be 2nd or 3rd position starting the first lap, or the last lap, apologies. I don't think the leader's going to hold on to it for a whole lap. Alexander Thieb will do really well. Obviously, the 2x2 starts might change that up a little bit into the first corner, but I think Thieb will have the advantage having the inside for turn number 1, starting on the left-hand side of the circuit. As the cars get rolling down towards Ravazza, a short pace lap here at Imola. We're not going to go for a full pace lap. It's going to be a short pace lap, so the drivers don't get very long to prep themselves. Get ready for this first race.
Yeah, I do like myself a little bit of a warm-up lap just to get myself into the rhythm, but sometimes half is just about enough to psych yourself up and get yourself ready to go racing. Of course, we go in the NGK and NTK Esports 2024. It's round 3 of the season, race 1 here at Imola, and of course it's Alexander Thieb back on the pole position as he was at the opening round of the championship. He's lost a lot of ground in the championship to Vince Peters. This could be the round where he moves himself forward in the championship race. We are racing now at Imola as we get underway. Gal Valero not with a great start on that front row of the grid, already going to lose out a single position to Nicholas Nolder on that race down towards that first corner. There's still 2x2 going through the mid-pack, but Alexander Thieb with the whole shot at the front of the field. I believe Nicholas Nolder is going to work his way through and complete that move into 2nd position, and Gal Valero will have to settle for 3rd position. They work their way, still plenty of side-by-side and all that, but for the most part it's single file in the top 8.
And Thieb got an excellent start there. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer for the lead going into T1, but Nolder making the most of Gal Valero's bad starts. We see a little bit of side-by-side and a bit of sideways. Vince Peters nearly coming to awry. That looks as though that was with Alessio Bender, and a little bit of side-by-side contact there as they go into turn number 7. That's a little bit further behind, actually, 2x2 behind. But yeah, excellent start from everyone. Looks as though everyone's got through the first half lap nice and clean. Settle in, 25 minutes to go.
I believe that blue car is Mario Velgut, who is having a little bit of problems going up through. Whoa! Big hit on the rear end. I don't know if you caught that in the background. A large hit from Daniel Muth straight into the rear end of Alessio Bender. This is where the side-by-side really is down the hill. That's Velgut going around the outside and trying to hang on to it as they head their way through Aqua Minerale, and there is definitely contact between the pair of them, and that will be Velgut off the road and dragging with him, of course, that orange car of Daniel Muth.
And now this is going to cause a backup into the Variante Alta, 3 wide potentially behind. Everyone looks to get through. A little bit of contact, car around the 87 going around, and yeah, they got going again. Not sure who the other car was involved there, but it just looks like that was 3 into 1 was never going to work into the Variante Alta. 2 into 1 is a struggle into that corner.
I've just taken a bit of a look. It was Mike Barber with the 3 wide with Mario Velgert, and then the contact with Mario Velgert for the second time in 2 corners between himself, of course, and Muth. So that's those lots sorted. But now the slipstream trains begin as Alexander Thieber with the race lead is having to deal with the charge, not of Garl Valero, but of Nicholas Nolder, moving up from the second row of the grid. Nolder is trying to take over the race lead immediately, but instead chooses to bump draft. You are right on with that in a little pre-show in our build-up, talking about how we're going to see a bit of bump draft around here. Why fight when you can just push a little bit, maybe build the gap to the grouping behind, and reduce the positions that you can lose in this race?
Something tells me this might turn into a bit of a Giro Italia style cycling race with breakaways and pelotons, the bump drafting. If Nicholas Nolder and Alexander Thieber work together and they get it right, they could start to build a gap. From seeing reports from the drivers, it looks to be around a second, the draft range on this, so you're going to have to pull a lot of time, and at the moment they don't have it. Only a couple of tenths, 3 wide into turn 7 once again, and they all survive this time, thankfully. On the exit, they go up the hill. I believe the 177, Sarah Dove, excellent run off the corner around the outside. I think she's going to do all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Straight up the order as we see the side-by-side behind. I believe that'll be Velgert just dropping down the order, I believe, with quite a damaged GR86 and maybe even with a slowdown. To be fair, with the amount of instant points, at least on the vein of 10x at this point, definitely 8x, with 2 4x instants between himself and Muth, who now finds himself directly behind. So hopefully there's no contact between the pair of them again. I will say to your cycling analogy, as somebody who does like a little bit of cycling around here, I said 10 points earlier if you could work out what circuit. We had Patricia driving around earlier, which was the Bilsterberg, so there you go. If you got that one right, fair enough. 10 points if you can tell me what the last race on bikes was around here. And by bikes, I mean cycling around here. If you can tell me what the last race was on that.
I wouldn't know. I would guess it's part of the Giro d'Italia, the World Tour. It wasn't? Oh, okay, that's interesting.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I used to follow cycling when I was younger, but not in recent years. I've spent way too much watching motorsport recently, so cycling is just another thing I can add to the list and don't have time for.
Well, I think we might have another look for the race lead, by the way, ahead out. You saw a little bit, it was just a little bit of a dart in the foreground from Nicholas Nolder, not going for the race lead, but still able to just keep it stead. You can see we've got 6 cars for the race lead here. That's Thieber, Nolder, Valero, Simon, Lynn, and Vince Peters has joined this group. A little bit, obviously, had to work their way through in the opening stages, we can see with Garl Valero at the moment in that 3rd position, just watching the battle up ahead. Really important, though, for Vince Peters to have joined this slipstreaming group. From now on, doesn't necessarily have to go fully on the attack. I'm not saying he's going to sit back, but still, I believe we've also had a bit of a problem, unfortunately, for Sergej Maturana, of course, our most recent winner.
Looks as though he was backwards out of turn 6, which isn't quite what Sergi will be looking for. He's dropped down to 24th position now, detached himself onto the sort of final pack as we still look at the lead of the race. He's got going again. He'll start his fight back through. Garl Valero just seems to... I wonder whether he's hanging back a little bit. Lewis looking after his tyres. It is 25 minutes after all. You don't want to take it all out in the first 5. Nicholas Nolder and Alexander Thieber obviously clearly working together. I don't think Nolder has any aspirations for that lead right now. I think that's going to be in the last couple of laps. They have started to pull a gap. 7 tenths back to Garl Valero now in 3rd. And I wonder whether that's just going to start to extend as replay up on your screen.
Yeah, let's see what happens to our most recent winner in the championship. Just, big hip check and then went for a spin. A bit of an oops there, unfortunately, and Sergi Maturana was the one that went round all that in the orange car. That was quite a rude hip check. Let's go with that.
I wonder whether he was also pushed a bit wide, bounced on the curb on the inside, pushed a little bit wide, but yeah, a little bit of a rude hip check there. I would say Sergi coming off worst on that one. As we go back to the lead, Nicholas Nolder, Alexander Thieber once again bump drafting, clearly working a little bit better than I maybe expected to work, but the draft is keeping the rest of the pack with them. Vince Peters now back up into P5. He's making his way through this pack now, Lewis. I think he might be going for the lead here.
Yeah, exactly. I think just probably, I think it was down into Ravazza 1 was able to make the move on Lin. So now up into that 5th position, but unfortunately, it's a bit of a larger gap. It's not too bad. Still getting a little bit of the slipstream off of the Vlotchev ex-driver of Tamas Simon. Plenty of battles behind, by the way, by Nazadati and Michael Hafnardarson, which is just behind that. You saw the side-by-side working their way through. Hafnardarson. Oh, Nazadati's definitely been round. Adati has definitely been round at Villeneuve, and so unfortunately will add to the list of drivers that have had problems during this race. And I believe Nazadati's only just got back going again.
He has. He's dropped pretty much to the back of the field. Replay up on the screen. You can see maybe a little bit of side-by-side contact. Yes, there was. There wasn't really enough room there. Around he went. And his rejoin nearly came a cropper on the rejoin as well, with the cars coming through towards the rear of the field. But he is back going again, down in 22nd position. He will be looking to race 2 now to make the most of it. If he can stay around where he is, he's going to be in the top 10 of your starting grid.
Exactly. This is the whole thing of what we've been saying about when it comes. This is race 1 of the evening. Once we're done with this, we'll get to race 2 of the evening, where of course it'll be all about that full reverse grid in the race. Did see a car going quite slow behind all of this. That is Lin, who's had a terrible exit going out of Variante Alto. I think might have even had a slowdown something from that, but either way, it was a terrible exit. Has now dropped off the battle for the victory and dropped back into the clutches of Alessio Bender and Norbert Leitner. That's the trio that you can see in 6th through 8th in the background. I think they are closing their way in. Bit of a replay as to what's happened to Maturana. More spins, more issues. Wonder if there's a bit of sort of overhanging damage or tyre wear and stuff from obviously that incident we saw earlier on going through Villeneuve. As that's a move for the race lead. That is actually a move for the race lead. Nicholas Nolder has absolutely gone for it now. Excellent
execution, but Alexander Thieb going to be looking to the outside on the exit of the corner. Nolder took a little bit too much curb, I think, through that chicane. Side by side into 5 and 6. Thieb's got the inside. It is usually the preferable line here, but Nolder's going to have him on the exit. Maybe contact. Oh, what a perfect switchback from Alexander Thieb. That could have been more pinpoint if he tried. And I think Valero trying behind, but Tamas Simon making the most of this now, heading up into P3. And I think he's going to have the run off the corner and a little bit of a bump from Vince Peters there. Excellent racing from all of them. I am surprised we didn't see contact, and they're still side by side coming up the hill for 3rd position.
Yeah, they drop back in line now. That was almost a little bit sketchy. Valero not wanting to go for it, was trying to back out of it a little bit, and then had Tamas Simon sent down his inside. I wasn't think Tamas Simon actually really wanted to go for that, but Vince Peters said otherwise. Another look to the outside from Alexander Thiebe, maybe going to go for the up and under going into Aqua Minerale. Decides not to do that as out wide Nicholas Nolder goes. Thiebe still keeping the pressure on, and I will say that trio that we were talking about behind, I believe Alessio Bender has been able to close the gap down now to the point where he's definitely picking up the slipstream of the top 5, where we now have an 8-car battle for the race lead. My only problem with this is that too many cars to the point where you're almost guaranteed an instant in the next couple of laps?
I don't know. We've got the top 8 fighting for the lead. The top 8 is covered by 2.5 seconds. Less than 2.5 seconds now. Alessio Bender really making the most of them fighting as we ride on board with Vince Peters. You can really see the concentration on his face as he heads through Ravazza. One more time on the exit. I wonder if we're going to see Alexander Thiebe go for a move for the lead. Nolder was pretty stable, just pushing him for a little bit, but he decided he'd had enough. He was going to go for the lead as they all come across the line, but I don't think it's going to be close enough this time, as Nolder's got about a 10th as they enter into the braking zone.
Thieber's going to be close enough, and he's going to take a little bit of a look down the inside. You can see Thieber just taking a look in the foreground there, and I believe we'll be taking over the race lead side by side between the pair of them as they go their way through Tamburello, through the right, through the left, and then out onto this short run down towards Villeneuve. I believe Nicholas Nolder is going to get absolutely freight trained here as being dragged through as Gal Valero now up in the 2nd position. Side by side, we've seen plenty of issues with all of this in the lower to mid pack, but this time it works out fine. We ride on board with Vince Peters, the championship leader, looking at all of this unfold, trying to judge the risk, trying to play it smooth, play it calm, and play it fair, trying to get up into 3rd position, unable to do so, but Gal Valero will work his way up to the 2nd position, and Alexander Thiebe back into the race lead.
And the gloves are off now, and it's still just under 14 minutes to go in this race. You can see Alexander Thiebe pulled a little bit of a gap on everyone else around half a second potentially while everyone was scrapping through that sort of early second sector as we head down into Aqua Minerale, looking backwards from Valera now in second position. He's going to be eyes forward, but he has his mirrors full of Nicholas Nolder, who's got an excellent run up the hill into the chicane, but I don't think he's going to have enough to make a move. No, he's actually going to push into the corner, interestingly. You don't want to get that too wrong because you don't want to push Valera through the chicane. He'll completely miss it. Look at that, everyone pin perfect. 2 wheels through the chicane.
And Vince Peters continues to show why he is the championship leader after starting a bit further down the order, 8th place, now in 4th. And to be perfectly honest, it's only looking like Vince Peters is moving forward in this race. I don't really see him dropping back too many positions. A bit of a larger gap, though, for the race lead. Alexander Thieber coming through that final corner. Obviously, we're approaching halfway done in this race. A half a second margin there with Valera behind. So I do not believe Valera is going to be able to do anything down into T1. But I can't see the entire pack remaining in these positions. I expect to see a couple of position switches, maybe Tamas Simon there, of course, with Alessio Bender in 5th.
Yeah, and I think they were scrapping a little bit behind for 7th and 8th, Wan Chi Lin and Norbert Lietner as well. It's been going on all through this top 8 pack. Doesn't look like we're going to see any position changes into the first chicane this time around. No one looks to be close enough. I think they're all going to settle down a little bit. They've realised they've still got a number of laps to go here, Lewis. Riding on board with Vince Peters, still very concentrated on this. Oh, I say that. They're all going to go 2 by 2 into the second chicane. Bit of contact for the lead, but Alexander Thieber's holding onto it. Vince Peters gets bullied on the exit there, looking at how much track he was left as Nicholas Nolder goes for second position.
That's a big send from Nolder, and again from Alessio Bender to the outside of Vince Peters. They're still side by side between Nolder and Valera. Valera's got one on the left-hand side who is going to be able to hang on at the moment to that second position. I kind of wonder if Valera went for that move going into Tamburello, less so because they definitely wanted to go for that move, but more so because if they didn't go for that move, they were going to get dive-bombed anyway. And it's that whole scenario. It's really difficult to manage.
I wonder whether you are right, Lewis. He was thinking, I'm getting overtaken here. Let me try and open an overtaken position to just block them off. You know, don't give them a chance to go down the inside because you can't go 3 wide into that corner as they head up into the chicane once more. Still single file, but Nicholas Nolder very close to the back of Valero there, who's again closer to Alexander Thebe. I think Thebe's lead could be at risk here at the end of the main straight on this lap.
Just remember, he had pole position by nearly half a second. You know, that's the whole thing with racing around a big circuit like this in cars like this. It's so good, especially when it's fixed setup and stuff. You just can't break that gap. You know, if there was contact in this and Alexander Thebe was able to build a gap to a second because of something like that, I think then you wouldn't see him again. I think he'd run off into the distance. We'd not be talking about anyone else winning this race. It would just be Thebe. But with how this race unfolds, because of the slipstream on the start finish straight, you gain about half a second a little bit from what I'm seeing here, which is going to force Valero's hand here. He's going to have to go for the lead, because if he doesn't, Nicholas Nolder will go for the move for the race lead, or at least trying to pick up that second position on him. So Valera then to the outside, trying to wrestle the racing off of Alexander Thebe, and will indeed commit to that going through Tamburello. Side by side between those, and Thebe's gone out wide, has opened up the door. Oh, Vince Peters with an enormous moment going through the middle of all of that. That was crazy scenes, and Nicholas Nolder now will have a whole shot to go and take over the race lead.
I think there might have been a little bit of contact, but Valero coming back slightly sideways. I don't know who's going to have the advantage here as they crowd each other off the circuit. Here comes Alexander Thebe. He wants his lead back. He's not happy about that. I wonder whether there was contact there. Very lucky as well for Vince Peters to keep that position, who's now down to 5th. There's no point reading out the positions. They're changing so much. They're 2 by 2 up the hill. It's like Noah's Ark at Imola. I think they're actually going 3 wide. This has all of a sudden just got very exciting with 9.5 minutes to go, but Valero seeing an opportunity to try and get away as Alexander Thebe cements himself into second position.
Yeah, I can tell you the 8 drivers that are involved in this. However, the order, well, we'll have to wait until they're on maybe I wouldn't say a straight bit, because that's when it's all going to really start changing. And it's changing the corners as well. It's impossible to tell right now, but Valero is your race leader. Alexander Thebe behind, Nicholas Nolder, Vince Peters, Tamas Simon, Alessio Bender, Norbert Leitner, and Yaoshi Lin in that 8-car train. I got through it. Take a picture of it, because I can tell you in about 3 or 4 corners it is going to be completely different. Fantastic racing. That's why I love Imola. In a car like this, in big F1 cars, whatever, it's kind of a bit dull. They're a bit too quick for us. But when you go into a cup car, a club car, something like basically it's a glorified tuned up road car, suddenly we're into some really good racing.
Yeah, you are exactly right, and the racing has been fantastic. We've still got another race to come that's a full reverse grid. These drivers are going to have to make their way through the pack, and we could even see someone coming from last to first. It is possible as they come down the main straight once again. Nicholas Nolder going defensive, interestingly, already. I think he can see a threat coming from Vince Peters. Is something going to happen for the lead, though? I think so. Alexander Thebe looking like he is going to line up a move on Gar Valero. Valero has the inside here. Thebe has got to go around the outside of the first part. Are they going to get through cleanly once again? I think so. I think Thebe's got it on the exit. And here comes Gar Valero and Nicholas Nolder, 2 by 2 once again, down into turn 5.
On board with Vince Peters now, dishing out a big bump to the rear end of Gar Valero, trying to take over that third spot. It is going to be the race lead once more from Alexander Thebe. Fantastic racing between this grouping. Bit of a slow run there, though, unfortunately, from Gar Valero, which is actually going to cost Vince Peters. And there's a big move down the inside from Alessio Bender, about the 6th car in shot. Make that now 5th car in shot, as trying to work past Tamas Simon, Norbert Leitner behind in all of that, trying to get to the outside from those two sort of light blue cyan coloured cars as they race their way up the hill. The important bit, though, is Thebe is back to the front, and Vince Peters is trying to work his way back through into third.
I think Vince Peters is struggling to get a little bit higher. He's looking at trying to get past Nicholas Nolder, but does not have the run down the hill here. Is he going to go for the exit? I don't think so. I don't think he's close enough. Both absolutely attacking the curb through Akka Minarali this time. And I think Gar Valero, Alexander Thebe, if they work together here, they've got a good gap. Lewis, they could try and get away with 3 laps remaining, but I don't know whether it's going to be possible. The draft is so strong. Watch the exit, guys. Watch the 1Xs. They've got to be getting close. There's been a lot of contact the last few laps. I wonder whether some people are starting to look at the incident count.
Yeah, exactly. They've really been slowing themselves down the last lap. I'll tell you, because it was 2 minutes 3.8, which is our pole time, and they have been running close to that in the races and even around that kind of time. The last lap time, basically from the entirety of this contingent, was 2 minutes 6, 2 seconds slower, just courtesy of the intense racing that we've had round here, to the point where I wouldn't even say Hafnardarson's that far out of it, really. Only sitting a further sort of 4 seconds off the rear end of this train. Now we're seeing a bit more bump drafting back toward the front. Gar Valero right earlier attaching himself to the rear end of Alexander Thebe's car. With the time left to go in this race, we will have 4 laps of racing, so there is plenty of time for moves, for judgments, for strategy calls. You can see some changes in the background between Dara Romero and John Ellen, as well as at the rear end of this field with Norbert Leitner and Yao Shi Lin.
Pace has picked up a little bit last lap. They're back into the 05s on looking at the lap time. So I think Michael Flitterson is close. That group of 3 is close, but Norbert Leitner now, he's dropped off this main pack. He's outside of a second of Wan Chi Lin, and if he loses the draft, it's going to be tricky to get back. Riding back on board with Vince Peters once again in P number 4. Looking a little bit more reserved this lap, Lewis. You are right. There was a bit more bump drafting down the main straight. As I say that, Nicholas Nolder was lining up Gar Valero for a move into Piratella, but it just didn't pull off. That's a hard corner to overtake into. Even in multi-class racing, where you're trying to go around a slower car, that's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, the average speed down into that corner is so high that, yeah, you don't really want to push it too hard. I think you were right to point out a bit earlier on about incident points as well, is I do feel that quite a few drivers within this group will be fairly high. I don't think many of them have picked up, like 4Xs or anything like that. I think they're all good on that, unless there's a phantom one that they might have picked up every now and then. But realistically, I think they'll be safe on that one. It's just those track limit violations. I think we might have had a couple of those. And I think it's when you're in that kind of scenario, yeah, you might have got up to, say, 10X, 10 incident points. Again, you've only got 7 to play with then in this final battle. I don't want to be that guy, but you want a few in hand, just in case in that final lap, because it can completely turn around how your race is going to be. You might be running in a top 5, and then one bit of car contact, and suddenly, bam, you're DQ'd. Yeah, sure, you start the next race in the front, but you're getting nothing from this race.
So I do have information on race control on this. We'll come back to this. Gar Valero's going for the lead. An excellent run down the main straight. I think we might see 3 wide. No, Nicholas Nolder's going to give Alexander Thebe the push to try and keep him in the lead. As we see Vince Peters making the most of that. He's actually going to get himself nicely up into 3rd. And a nice view of Alexander Thebe defending. Oh, wow. What a move. They're still side by side. I think this is going to go through the next chicane here, Lewis. And I'm not sure how clean it's going to be.
Yeah, Nicholas Nolder, I think, actually hit the back of Vince Peters there. It was the moment that we saw whilst we were riding on board. 2x2 between the top 6. I was going to say the top 3 lanes, really. It's turned into a bit of Daytona 500 kind of action. That's not for a couple of weeks, as once more it will be Alexander Thieber at the front of the field, and it will be Gal Valero behind. Lynn and Bender will switch their positions behind all of this as Norbert Leighton has dropped back has rejoined the rear end. Might have been some more issues towards the rear end of this one, but again, our focus towards the front. Gal Valero, Nicholas Nolder, Vince Peters. I mean, they gave it a good go at trying to work their way past Alexander Thieber, but he's got all the answers at the moment. But I am not convinced that this is going to be a race victory.
I'm not either. As we see the replay here, a little bit of contact actually for Alessio Bender. That's what's caused him to drop behind Norbert Leitner down into P number 8. He's still in the lead pack though, so he is still definitely in this. I think it's going to be 2 laps to go at the end of this one, Lewis. It is going to be tight as we see they're really taking the liberties now with the track limits. Information from race control, as I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by Gal Valero. We do have some drivers close to the incident limit, but not in the top group. These guys are a little bit more comfortable. I think we're going to see some gloves off racing in these final couple of laps.
That's what I like to hear. That is what I like to hear. Yeah, we were rudely interrupted there by some fantastic racing. Terrible stuff. You're absolutely right. I believe we will get 2 laps to go. It will be quite tight, but we should be on 2 laps to go. Unless they race really heavily. Oh, it's going to be really close. We crossed the line now, and that was at about 2 minutes 6. And it takes about 2 minutes 4 to get around here at the best of times. This is going to be really close to whether this is the final lap or not. And again, if they fight hard, this will be the final lap of the race. But there was no look from Gal Valero down to the first corner there. Maybe he wants quite a quick lap here, so they definitely guarantee that that final lap.
I'm asking race control if this is going to be the final lap, because iRacing will decide. I don't think it will. I think it's going to be by about 2 seconds. We might get one more after this, so this definitely isn't over. I think some drivers are waiting for maybe a final move, but no, Gal Valero to the outside, but not going to pay off. And that's actually going to open the door for Nicholas Nolder up the hill. He's got an excellent run off the corner. Alexander Thieves having to go defensive. He looks like he's going to try and drag Nolder up the hill, actually try and get him past Gal Valero, but it's not enough. Valero's had the run, and they're back into single file.
Nolder pulled right the way over to the left-hand side of the circuit. I don't think he wanted anything to do with that pass on Gal Valero. Not into Piratella. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit earlier on. It's such a fast corner. It's not one you want to go for. Right now, if this is the last lap of the race, which I'm sure they will be stressing about behind the wheel at the moment, where do you go for the moves? Everything's too fast from this point, surely, unless maybe a big send down to Ravazza.
I'm not sure. I think Ravazza might be the final chance. If you get a good run out of the Variante Alta, I think Tozer as well, T7 could be a good opportunity out of the chicanes if someone gets a bad run or some very sideways cars. Thieber's gone instantly defensive down the hill just to try and break the draft. I wonder whether we're going to see some Indy 500 style weaving on the front straight here, Lewis, to try and break the draft on the final lap. Vince Peters really going for it into Ravazza. A beautiful move to get out the inside. It's just dependent on if you can get it off the corner, but it might harm the run on this final go. I think this opens up the opportunity for Valero to go for the lead. I wonder whether Peters has just made a mistake in doing that move there. I think he's dropped back too far. Checkered flag.
Yeah, Alexander Thieber then to checkered flag is out. iRacing has called it, and Vince Peters with that look is going to be dropped down the order. Alexander Thieber just about will take victory here in the first race at Imola. We were wondering if it was going to be quite close, and the answer to that question is, yeah, it came down to a second or so. And Alexander Thieber then just about crossed the line to take victory by 600ths of a second on Gal Valero. But that move from Vince Peters going into that final corner, yeah, if you're going to go there, you've got to go and you've got to complete the move by the time you leave it. The thing is, they were side by side on the exit. It was always going to be advantage to the car on the outside. It was worth a go, but just didn't work out.
It was worth a go, and I was calling that based on having one more lap. I didn't realize this was going to be the last lap. I got the information from race control incredibly late. In fact, I didn't see it until after the finish line, but it was the white flag.
Well, we'll take a look at the, of course, provisional results here. Alexander Thieber taking victory by 600ths of a second from Valero, Nicholas Nolder, Tamas Simon, Vince Peters inside the top 5, all separated by literally just over a second with Yaoqi Lin, of course, Norbert Leitner and Alessio Bender, the 6 drivers that have put on, or quite, sorry, 8 drivers, I can count, don't worry, 8 drivers that have put on quite a show throughout the day. 2 seconds separating the top 8. John Elland and Darwin Romero back end of the top 10 before we get to Half the Darson, dropping back outside of that top 10 in the final moments of the race. Daniel Muth and Velgut, those two were involved in a lot of incidents throughout the start of the race. In fact, some of the first incidents that we saw, and they find themselves 12th and 13th on the road. Harry Fox, Sarah Dove, Sophia Aronwen, and then Adati, Shutsko in 18th position with Makarov and Mike Barber, down in that 20th position with Saladino, Gladic, Hudson, Lynn, Aliu, and of course a retirement earlier on. We saw him go off into Aqua Minerale. Sergei Maturana finishing in 26th position. But what that means is that will be the reverse grid pole, because there's a full reverse grid here. So the results in reverse. Sergei Maturana starting from pole position with Merjim Aliu, from 2nd position with Gary Lynn and Marcus Hudson. Gladic and Saladino in 6th spot. So we'll roll our way down the order. Mike Barber, Makarov, Stutsko, of course, Adati. Some of these drivers, the likes of Adati, we know there's good pace in this group where they might move their way forward throughout all of this as well. So there's plenty more to fight for. We saw Aaron Wen and Sarah Dove, Harry Fox, Velgut, Muth. Hopefully there's no instance between those two in this one. Hafler Darson and the likes behind Romero, Ellen, Bender, Leitner, Lynn, Peters, of course, Tamas Simon, Nicholas Nolder in 24th position, and the final row on the grid, separated by less than a tenth of a second of the previous race. Carl Valera for the Apex Racing team and Alexander Thieber looking for a squad. What are we thinking about this race though, Jack? Because that first race was crazy, but the full reverse grid, I mean, we're talking something special here, surely.
I think this is going to be nuts. Sergio Maturana has an opportunity to get away at the front of this field, really dominate this race, but I think the top 8 that we saw in that previous race, they are going to storm their way through as best as they can as we come to the start.
We see a lot of drivers dropping in chat straight after the race there. Good race, good race, good race, good race. They loved that. And to be fair, I understand why. Sergio Maturana looking for back-to-back reverse grid victories. Had one back in Aragon just in the previous round of the championship. Will now set the race underway as we go racing in the reverse grid race here at Imola. And it will be a very solid start from Maturana. And in fact, it's so good they've pulled with Aliu so clear of the rest of the field. They are not going to be fought going into that first corner. Where are we going to see our first bits of side-by-side? Well, the answer to that question is literally everywhere going down into Tamburello. Plenty of moments through all of this. Like I say, for drivers like Vince Peters and stuff, this is time for them to work their way through the order. 3 wide in the mid-pack. Crazy scenes.
And that 3 wide was excellently done, and they're now going to go 2 by 2. A little bit of fighting ahead as well. We're going to start to see your drivers who are a bit further down the grid because they finished well in the previous race. They're going to start coming off. Alessio Bender already up to P15, riding on board with Vince Peters. A bit of contact ahead. I think this is going to be a feisty opening couple of laps here, Lewis, as we look back on the TV cameras. But Sergio Maturana gone at the front of the field. An excellent start. I think the second row were taken by surprise.
I mean, you pointed out Alessio Bender there. I was looking at Vince Peters. The size of the move that he did going down the field there was crazy. So brave. But they've already worked their way up a fair few positions. Alessio Bender now gets past Stutsko as well on the race down the hill. This is Michael Hafler-Darson, who are riding on board with just outside, or just rather at the back end of the top 10 behind Mario Velgahut. Oh, and there's a spinner in the mid-pack just ahead of all of that. I'm not sure who that was, but they are backwards and dropping down the order.
Unfortunate for them. I'm sure we'll get a replay with Sarah Dove. I've just seen it come up on my other screen as we look on the TV cameras side by side into the chicane, and Alexander Thieber's got through there safely. It's Sarah Dove's currently, I think, the only casualty of the first lap. Maybe also Marcus Hudson as well. He looks to have lost a lot of time on this opening lap, but Vince Peters up 7. The biggest mover and shaker so far, yes, is Vince Peters. He's up 8, and so is Alexander Thieber. An excellent storm through the field. Sarah Dove, very unlucky, just hit the curb, looks like lost the rear end, and around she went, but she has carried on.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just be a 2x, maybe a 4x if there was a big enough hit from the rear. So, yeah, incident points being picked up, fair enough, but now driving around by yourself, it's a little bit boring because you kind of wonder, oh my God, what could have been in this race? But it is what it is, as we see some of the racing back down here. Norbert Leitner closing up to Vince Peters, moving a bit further up the order as we'll see Velkhooch going around the outside and going for a little bit of a chop there with Hafler Darson, who's gone round again. And was that into the clutch to Vince Peters? Was he collecting all of that? Yes, he was. Championship leader then, caught up in that incident.
And it's carnage behind. There was about 5 cars involved in that, Lewis. There could have even been more. And Vince Peters, one of them. There's going to be some drivers who made up a lot of positions on that. Alexander Thieb looks like they were one of them. Daniel Muth, he's had a pretty poor evening, but he is down at the order as well. And I think that was just the pro drivers were coming through. I'm not sure whether some of the more amateur drivers, more maybe developing drivers, you know, this is of course a series drivers are using for development, as I mentioned earlier. I don't think they were quite expecting that. They are aggressive, these pro drivers. When I've raced against them, they will take any opportunity. Replay on your screen.
Yeah, so that was Hafler Darson going down the inside there, and watch this coming through. Big hit there for Vince Peters, and then Norbert Leitner also absolutely dooring Vince Peters coming through as well. Further bits of contact leaving that the first chicane at Tamburello. It was Velkhooch who was obviously on the outside. We saw a couple of incidents from the previous race, but yeah, Hafler Darson sent round into the path of you know, the rest of the contingent coming through there. Almost to the point where there's just not much you can really do to avoid it. It's so narrow going through Tamburello. What this is, though, this is a huge moment in the championship for this driver here. Second in the championship at the moment, Alexander Thiebe, with some of the issues that we've seen throughout the season. No, he's got the pace to win this whole thing. Vince Peters basically just passing over a lot of points potentially to Thiebe.
Potentially, yeah. It's another view on board of Daniel Muth. There was nothing Muth could do there in the 87. That is so unlucky. It was just a roadblock ahead of him. As you can see live pictures down in the corner of your screen. Alexander Thiebe up to 12th. What I want to point out is Sergi Maturana at the head of the field has gone 2 seconds over P3. Merjim Aliyu has gone with him using the draft, really pulling the gap. I think if these two can work together, there's potential here for a good result. Alexander Thiebe, yes, he's P11. Yes, we've still got 20 minutes to go, but he has to get through this field, and there are some fast drivers ahead of him.
Yeah, of course. But I said it was race 2 in the previous race of the season. What I meant was it was race 2 in the first round of the season for Maturana, where he took that victory. It was ahead of Gar Valera and Alessio Bender, as we'll see some more movements. This is Mike Barber trying to work their way up the order for 5th position. And, oh, goodness me, Saladino nowhere near the apex because he had to worry about Velkhooch, who was straight on the inside. I'm sure, you know, the hand being waved in the air there, but it was 3 wide it looked. At least, yeah, that's what I kind of saw. At least with the line that we saw from Saladino there, I would assume there must have been a send there from Velkhooch.
I think there was. The fact that Mike Barber ended up where he did would tell me that there was a dive bomb from the blue car. I'm not quite sure who it was. But yeah, I think Mike Barber a little bit frustrated on that. I think I would be too if I was in his shoes. He just got a sort of shoulder cuffed out of the way there. Look at Naz Adati. He's defending from Alessio Bender. Bender's going to have a look for a move up into the chicane, into the Variante Alta. That's brave. Yeah,
but we know Alessio Bender can work their way up the order, and was very fast in the previous race, had the fastest lap. Did Alessio Bender. Dropped down the order a little bit compared to where they would have wanted to have been, considering the pace. But then again, I thought anyone in that top 8 finishing in 7th or 8th position, they'll all be sat there thinking, oh, what could have been in this race? Alessio Bender saying, well, what's going to be in this race? Straight down the inside with a big look there. And Nazadati with contact sends Mike Barber round, and that will be Alessio Bender up 2 positions in the single corner. Frustration, though, and you can see the Dur Academy driver is not happy with what's happened there. As you can see, Alexander Thiebe working their way up the order.
And there was more contact there. I think that was where the frustration from Alessio Bender came from. Alexander Thiebe making the most from that. Mike Barber down into P20 now as Alexander Thiebe goes for a move on John Aylan. I think he's going to get the move done down into turn number 1. A little bit more messy in these opening laps, Lewis, as the faster drivers work through the mid-pack. And I think it's going to be, as we see a replay up on the screen, actually, let's see what happened here. Alessio Bender going for the move. Oh, wow, that was a big dive bomb on Mike Barber. He got turned around there, no fault of his own, and down towards the rear of the field.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Barber was just sort of in the middle of all of that. And I don't blame Alessio Bender from all of that either as well, who I believe might have actually got a slowdown or something from all that, because he actually dropped up behind, or he just was really slow off the corner anyway. Alexander Thieb has obviously come through and now is embroiled in this quite a tight fight with John Ellen towards the back end of the top 10. I think Nazadati was... It's the whole thing in racing that you kind of get told fairly early, which is to not worry too much about what's happening in your mirror. Because if you become too focused with what's happening in your mirror, you're not focused on what's happening ahead. And I believe Nazadati was so focused on what's happening in the mirror, was basically going to miss the corner because of that look.
I wonder whether you are right, because it did just look like he missed his braking zone, drove straight through the back of Mike Barber. John Aylen here, he's been pushed into the Variante Alta. In fact, you can see all these drivers, maximum concentration on the cameras as we switch to Alessio Bender now, the number 11 machine, out of the Variante Alta. He goes currently sitting at P number 9. He's not going to be close enough for a move on John Aylen just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they use Alexander Thieb here to try and make their way through the pack.
Francesco Saladino as well is that red car that Alexander Thieb was working his way past, going down the hill into the Ravazza, into the first part of the Ravazza section. And of course, John Allen's going to go through as well. And of course, Alessio Bender's going to try and work his way past not one, but maybe two. Decides not to try and grab the second one because that was never going to work. So might have to do a little bit of bump drafting and then go for a move going down to the first corner. Whilst we've been talking about all that, by the way, Mergin Aliou has taken over the race. It was actually about a lap or so ago. We're so focused on all this racing, the mid-packers, our front runners from the previous race, are working their way forward. It's so hard to take your eyes off of it. Looking to the inside, and Alessio Bender is going to go through on John Ellen. Of course, as we ride on board with Gal Valero, there might have been a bit of a look to try and get down the inside of that first corner from Valero, but decided better of it. Thought, not yet. Still 16 minutes left to go, so we're not halfway yet. And with this group, by the way, being 6.7 seconds off the race, even still plenty of drivers to work their way through. I don't think they're winning it.
I'm not sure. I mean, Alexander Thieb is around 7 seconds off the lead, and the leaders are actually running good pace. In fact, we've had a change for the lead, Lewis. In all of that, the lead has changed. Mergin Aliou has gone through. Sergi Mangiarana has dropped down to P2. So it's going on all the way through this field. But to give you an idea, I have boxes around all the cars that are within a second of each other on my timing screen, and there's just been a big box appear from 3rd down to 16th. So this pack is close together, and that's going to generate another 15 minutes of great racing.
Exactly, and the thing is that's a good sign for drivers like Alexander Thieb, who obviously want to work their way through as high as possible. Obviously, there's a start from the back end of the field, Alessio Bender, Gal Valero as well, because all that action is not spread out far enough. Oh, there's a big crash in the background though. Vince Peters round again. Oh my goodness, Vince Peters, champion, who's having a terrible race here at the second one. I believe it was caught up between himself and Tamas Simon. Tamas Simon is the second car in shot. Oh, it was actually a really slow exit there from Norbert Leitner, and Vince Peters kind of had nowhere really to go. Was thinking, why didn't you get on the throttle, mate? But so hard to do sometimes, and Vince Peters sent round.
Vince Peters out of the race. Wow. That is a headline for you. Your championship leader out of race number 2. There must have been damage on that. Yeah, that's a look of disappointment on that face, I think, if I've ever seen one. Someone who has had a terrible second race here. Back to live pictures. Alexander Thieb putting the pressure onto Gary Lynn now up the inside into turn number 1, and he's going to use the draft from Artem Makarov to get himself past. Lights are flashing. That is the international sign of I'm coming through, get out of my way from Alexander Thieb. We see it a lot, and I think we're going to see a nice big send into the second chicane.
Wow, Gary Lynn got absolutely sent by Alessio Bender, and just thought, actually, do you know what, this ain't worth it, battling with you kids, off you go. And there is the move to the inside. Alexander Thieb now into 4th spot now, and I'm sure Alessio Bender will work his way past Artem Makarov pretty sharp as well, going down to the toes. There's a look to the inside, there's the commitment, the attempt to cover it off from Makarov, but Bender is already committed to that move down the inside and will work his way now up into 5th position himself with a bit of a drag race up the hill. Gal Valero probably giving a little bit of slip, or a little bit of bump drafting rather to the rear end of Alessio Bender as they're both trying to clear Artem Makarov. Bit of a slide there, bit of a kick of oversteer as they get onto the brakes going into Piratella, and now they're worked down the hill, still side by side in all of this.
Artem Makarov is going to fight this position, as is his right to do so. He has the inside through Akka Minerali, which is actually the preferred line, but Gal Valero is going to get the run off the corner up the hill, and I'm not sure Artem Makarov is going to have what he needs to get past But the important thing is here, Garvalaro is now a second off Alessio Bender. He's lost time in all of this, and John Aylan looking for a move, not quite able to get it done into the Variante Alta. That would have been a very brave move from Aylan.
Right, we'll talk very quickly when it comes to big stuff in this race. Obviously, Alexander Thiebe with his position fourth in the race, 4.8 seconds off of the race lead. I said I don't think he's going to be able to go for the race win here. I'm going to correct myself on that. I think he probably will be, actually, because the next driver down the road is Mario Velgut, and then it's Mergim Aliu, and then, of course, Maturana, who's retaken over the race lead, and all of our conversing about all of this mid-pack drama, which has been absolutely fascinating. Thiebe has to basically run about a second a lap, slightly less than a second a lap faster than that top grouping. Well, guess what? He's running about a second a lap faster than that top grouping. So I think he will absolutely be able to close his way up into that battle for the race lead, whilst we're seeing a replay of some things that have happened a bit further down the order.
Yeah, I think that might have just... that was the change of the lead. Yeah, that was the change of the lead. And actually, Sergi Maturana has got back ahead. So there's obviously been another lead change. But you are right, Alexander Thiebe needs to run good pace. He was only 0.6 faster last time round, so I think he's going to need a few quali laps here. But it's 4 seconds between Thiebe and the lead. But the great Murray Walker once said, catching is one thing, passing is another, and this is Imola. It's tricky to pass around. We have seen it's possible, but you have to give it everything. Although if there's one driver who can, is Alexander Thiebe.
Yeah, I'll give you. So the last lap time from Maturana. Now that was with a little bit of slipstream, of course, on the overtake. Fair enough, there was that. The last lap time was a 2 minute 5.1 from Maturana. Okay, the last lap time from Alexander Thiebe was a 2 minute 4.5, whilst also making a move. I definitely think Alexander Thiebe can run in the low fours. Whilst Velgut's out of the race. Doesn't even need to make up that position now because Velgut is out of this race. So that's a freebie for Alexander Thiebe, and one person he now no longer has to pass in this charge for the race lead. I think that is a DQ, by the way, for Velgut, because it was going wide through Piratella, which I can only assume got an instant point, and that was him out of the race.
I have asked for clarification from Race Control, but it sounds as though, yes, number 20, DQ. So Mario Velgut, actually the first driver we've seen falling foul to the instant limit here at Imola. And I have to say, that is an impressive effort in 15 minutes. So that is your first DQ, Alexander Thiebe. That's one less overtake he's got to make, and it's 3 seconds to the lead.
Yeah, and he is. That was my big concern, was actually getting past Velgut. I thought that was the thing that was going to slow him down, maybe a little bit too much to go for this race victory. I think he's absolutely got this. But I'm not going to say he's got the victory, but he's got at least a chance. He's got a sniff. He's got the consistency. Just set a 2 minute 3.9. Has Thiebe. And notice there, Mergim Aliu did not go for a move on Maturana because I think they're realising the pressure. Let's see what happened to Velgut. That's out wide. And yep, that is too far out. Once you've dropped 2 wheels off of the curb around here, you will receive a 1x, an instant point, and pop, he's gone.
And that is a visit to Race Control as we see some side-by-side here. John Aylan, Artem Makarov. Artem has held on to these positions very well, defending this perfectly. John Aylan cannot get around, and this has allowed Nazar Darty and Nicholas Nolder, as Nolder goes for a move on a Darty into P number 8. But Aylan can't find his way around Makarov, and I am surprised by that. And this has dropped him out of that group with Gal Valero and Alessia Bender side by side into Piratella.
Which, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to say something. I think that baffles me that Alessia Bender was even looking for that. Garvalero went for a move going down to Tozer, which I guess would be a little bit frustrating. If in this group, if I'm the car that's second in this group, there's 9 minutes left to go, which don't get me wrong, yeah, you're talking 4 or 5 laps. I'm sat behind that car. I am pushing him. I am bump drafting. We're going to work as hard as we can to catch. It's not about catching Alexander Thiebe. It's catching Mergim Aliu and Sergi Maturana. That's the group that you can catch those two. Which, to be fair, if they delay Alexander Thiebe a little bit more, then maybe there is a chance. But going side by side, going into Piratella, all you do is just cost yourselves time. It's probably half a second they've just cost themselves by that little look, by taking a little bit of a tighter line from Gal Valero going through there. That time that you costing yourselves. This is not a long race. There will be 4 laps to go after this. That's not many laps to close that gap down. Working together, though, you can close that margin. Less than 2 seconds it'll be now between Alexander Thiebe and the back of Mergim Aliu. He's not far away from slipstream.
But as well, Garvalaro, they're 2.5 seconds back from Alexander Thebe. If they work together, they could catch him, especially knowing Thebe has got to get through your two leaders that we are currently looking at into T1. Now, Alexander Thebe last round did a 2 minutes flat. Garvalaro did a 2 minutes 4.3. But the previous lap, Valaro was quicker, and I think that was all down to drafts and battling behind. Nicholas Nolder has managed to break the Makarov curse and get past the 159 car, and he's now going to help out the cars behind him. John Aylan going for a move into the second chicane. I think he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I think what that was from Nicholas Nolder was trying to make sure they were side by side. Aylan straight around the outside of Makarov. Brilliant space being given there from Artem Makarov, and this fantastic defence I think is going to come slowly to a close. Nazadati will work their way through. John Aylan then up into 7th position. Probably won't have the speed. Oh, there's Gary Lynn and Darwin Romero off in the background, and I think Gary Lynn might be out of the race in that red and black car. So good stuff there from Nicholas Nolder, though. I was going to say he was trying to make them side by side so he can then build a gap in this group so they don't have any slipstream on him. Let's see what happened to Gary Lynn.
Gary Lynn, it just looks like the cars got connected and the damage came on the rebound. Unlucky for both, but not sure. What have you seen?
Norbert Leitner's out of the race now.
Norbert Leitner, that could be another DQ. I will ask race control.
Bit of contact here, maybe. I believe that might have... Was it a 4? Oh, that would probably have been a 4X. And that's him out. Yeah, DQ. Yeah. Straight up DQ.
And so another driver hitting the DQ limit. We're obviously seeing a little bit more contact in this second race. So Norbert Leitner, another one falling foul to the 17 incident. And he's there. Alexander Thebe is with your leaders. Sergi Maturana, 3 laps to go. Defend like your life depends on it. There is a race win at stake here, and Alexander Thebe is hungry. Already going for a move on Merjim Aliyu.
Yeah, it was really slow there. I kind of wonder if there might have been a lift there from Aliyu, thinking, look, do you know what? I'm quite happy with a podium in this, but if I battle you, we're definitely having those two behind join this fight. So maybe a little bit of wise play for Merjim Aliyu and saying, Alexander Thebe, look, you want your 4th victory of the season? Go for it. Battle away, son. Sergio Maturana, of course, looking for his 2nd win of the season. This is a big turning point in the championship for Alexander Thebe, especially considering, Vince Peters had that poor qualifying, still managed to work his way up into a solid position in race 1, fair enough. Out of this race, taking a victory in this one will be a huge, huge swing in the championship for Alexander Thebe. And to be perfectly honest, whilst I think Sergio Maturana is a fantastic driver, I don't see him hanging on.
I'm not sure. Maybe if Thebe goes through. Okay, here's the theory. I think we've got 2 laps left after this. So if Thebe goes through and he leads on to the last lap, could Maturana have an opportunity to get back past? Because he is quick. We know this. He's proven this. Could he keep up in Thebe's draft to the point where he could get past and make a move on the final lap? I think it's possible. I thought I just saw a DQ there.
Yeah, same.
I panicked a little bit thinking Thebe got another lucky position, but I don't think he has. Maturana continues to lead.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing is Maturana's not too slow, where if he can if he can keep onto the rear end of Alexander Thebe, could theoretically keep up, because Thebe's going to be running in a 2 minute, realistically the low 2 minute 4s, right? Maturana, that's only about a second faster than what Maturana's running, and trust me, the slipstream around here over the entirety of the lap is probably around a second, right? So you can absolutely keep up in all of that. Maybe there isn't the opportunity to go for the race lead once more, but you would almost certainly be able to keep up. I mean, it's worth a go. 2 laps left to go then, Imola, and Alexander Thebe will absolutely take over the race lead here from Sergi Maturana, depending on what happens down into the first chicane at Tamburello. But I think he's got the overspeed and will comfortably retake it. They cross the stripe and head on to the penultimate lap of proceedings. And to be fair, Merjim Aliyu might not be too far off the rear end of this. Look at those 2 stalking in the background. I think they might just about be able to catch this group, unless Alexander Thebe is fast enough, but not too fast, that the 2 can keep up.
I think Sergi's playing the smart game here. Let Thebe through, follow him for the next 2 laps. Merjim Aliyu as well. I think that was why he let Thebe through on the previous lap, just to allow them to reduce that time loss. There's not a lot of time between these 2 cars, 1.7 seconds, and Garvalaro has just taken about 3/10 out of them through that chicane. So they are pushing behind to close this gap. Valero wants this podium, but if Aliu could hold on to it, that could be the perfect story of how the reverse grid can benefit people, put them in a position where they can get an excellent result in these races.
Yeah, exactly. This is you got to play a tactical game at all times. As we've said before, this is a sprint race. Of course, we're not talking endurance racing here, but still, if you want to win it, you've got to be tactical. You've got to understand how and when to fight. I've done this from my fair stints in touring car racing and stuff. When it comes to reverse grid and stuff like that, learning how to use a reverse grid and learning how to use a faster competitor to benefit you, even if sometimes you're in the mid pack and you think I'm not going to fight them because they're almost certainly going to take someone out. Bam, bish bash bosh, freebies, and trust me, that stuff works. For now, there's no one Alexander Thiebe is going to be taken out, but there is the opportunity for Sergio Maturana just to keep up. The gap between Mergim Aliu and Gar Valero going on to the last lap, it will be under a second, but that doesn't guarantee Gar Valero an opportunity down at the T1.
I think Valero's opportunity is going to be into Tosa or into Piratella. That's going to be where he's going to make his move for the podium. I think he's going to be too far back for T1 here, especially knowing that Mergim Aliu has the draft of the leaders. Has Alexander Thiebe got enough here? I don't know. He's been better over the course of the lap. Sergio Maturana has dropped back a little bit. White flag, 1 to go here at Imola in the final race. It has been confirmed to me by race control, so this is going to be what decides it.
Yeah, and it shows for Sergio Maturana, by the way, just set his personal best lap of this race. So really pushing as hard as they can. And to be fair, Mergim Aliu, I believe, also set one, but I think might have exceeded track limits on that one when it comes to setting a personal best lap time. They're both stepping it up as best they can to keep up with this group. We'll look a little further down to some of the battling happening. Oh my goodness me, John Ellen trying to get past Nazadati. And of course, Lin involved in all of this as well.
Yanchi Lin, I think, looking to try and take advantage as best as he can, but Nazadati holding on to it for now for P number 7. Alessio Bender, I think he's had an issue on the previous lap. He's dropped a long way back from Gar Valero, and he's losing even more time. He could lose P5 here, Ethan Lewis, on the final lap. I'm not sure what's going on for the number 11 machine as we look. Can Yanchi Lin make a move into Piratella? I don't think he's close enough. I don't think he's going to make the move. It's a very brave one to go for.
I think Alessio Bender might have had a slowdown penalty or something in that vein, because dropping that 2 seconds back is kind of what makes sense. Got to say, Mergim Aliu, though, is going to lose a position here for third position, just a bit further up the order, because Gar Valero has the run and will work his way through. You can see it there into Variante Alta. I don't believe Gar Valero, though, will be able to clear Maturana. Fantastic performance between the pair of Maturana and Mergim Aliu to have not fought when they could have fought, but to have held on to their positions. They've played their cards as best they can. And to be fair, they're going to grab second and fourth, because I don't believe Gar Valero is going to have the speed to go and catch Sergio Maturana, and none of them are going to have the speed to catch Alexander Thiebe, winner in race 1 earlier on this evening, had pole position as well by a comfortable margin, and will come down towards the line here at Imola to take the clean sweep. And a fantastic round in the third round of the NGK and NTK Esports Cup of 2024. Excellent performance, capitalising on his championship rival's misfortune across the line as a very well-deserving victor.
Alexander Thiebe taking... that is a double win, isn't it? So yep. It's, I think that's the first time we've seen that all season. Congratulations. That is an impressive result. Gar Valero as well. But as you said, Sergio Maturana, Mergim Aliu, excellent racing. They were smart. When I was talking about strategy just before this race kicked off, or right at the start of this broadcast actually, that's what I meant. Playing smart, playing your cards correctly. And I think as well, a mention to Artem Makarov. Absolutely incredible defending from some excellent drivers on the iRacing service. That was brilliant racing all the way through.
Yeah, I will say Makarov, I don't feel, has received the result that maybe they would have deserved, because they obviously dropped down the order to 11th, not even on this screen, although we'll discuss a little bit of that in a few moments' time. We'll take a look at the provisional results then, with Alexander Thiebe taking the double here at Imola. Race 1 victory, race 2 victory as well. Maturana not getting his second victory of the season, will have to settle for second place, and Gar Valero with that last lap move to get past Mergim Aliu and onto the podium. Aliu then in fourth position, but I still think think, fantastic drive and huge plaudits for that. Alessio Bender was gaining a lot on the first lap, but only 5th position in the race result after some late race issues before we got to Nicolas Nolder, Nazadati, Yanshi Lin and John Ellen all involved in that fight late on in the race. Tanash Simon just about rounding out the top 10 of proceedings. Artem Makarov then, after an excellent defensive performance, will drop back down to 11th position with Stuchko down in 12th. Saladino, Mike Barber, Sarah Dove got involved in that incident right on the first lap going through Aqua Minerale. Still managed to finish 15th in this race. That's what happens when you just keep it on the road and keep pushing. Sophie Aronwen in 6th position with Marcus Hudson and Daniel Muth not having a good evening down in 18th position. 1 lap down will be Nicholas Gladish before we get to Norbert Leitner out the race late on, courtesy of a DQ and that contact between himself and Makarov. Gary Lynn, Romero, Velgut, Peters, Hafler Darson and Harry Fox. The big talking point is Vince Peters there being out of that race with that retirement. Struggles in the first race, still managed to get a few points in it, but he's lost a lot of ground in the championship.
Yeah, I think Vince Peters is going to leave this round with hurt feelings. The first race was excellent. I think that might just be his saving grace is that first race, but the second race obviously finishing down in 24th and DNFing, not going to be ideal for his championship. Of course, still a long way to go though. A lot can happen as we've seen this evening and some excellent circuits. I think Oulton Park, Rudskogen, they're going to absolutely throw this championship into array because they're small club circuits. They're what this car is designed for at the end of the day, but it's going to be that little bit harder to get past than these FIA grade ones.
Yeah, exactly. This is the whole thing of looking at the season. This is the kind of one where if you are going to get a double winner like what we had, this is the one where it's going to happen. We didn't see it at Zolder, far too tight. And I think that's what we're going to see again back in Oulton Park. Same with Aragon using the club layout. It's whilst you can make moves around these, it's just not as likely to see you flying up the order like you can do around an FIA Grade 1 circuit. There's plenty of room, plenty of space, and to be fair, plenty of runoff if you get it slightly wrong that'll keep you involved in the race. And I think he just did not put a foot wrong. Kind of wonder how many incident points he would have had in that one, because from what I was seeing, the drive of the way through did not, no real mistakes at all.
No, actually, I'm going to go have a look. Apologies for looking away because I'm looking at my other screen where I can go. He had 11 incident points. So not quite to the limit, but obviously pushed it a little bit. There were some drivers who were a little bit closer at the end of the race. Nicolas Nolder being one of them. Obviously, Norbert Leitner getting disqualified as well, being one that went over the limit. So a couple of the drivers pushing it close to the limit, but actually on the whole, there were a number of drivers that were under 10. So a lot of people learning how to drive around the track limits here at Imola, and that was always going to be the key to this evening, to getting the most out of that result, was to make sure you didn't pick up the incident penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be growing a couple of interviews as well. Do you want to see Alexander Thieber in there? But before we get to that, we'll have a little chat with Gal Valero, who obviously put on quite a performance this evening. And Mr. Valero, hello there. How are things for you? How's it all going? That was a solid evening of racing there.
I'm hot. I am very heated. I would say I'm way above the temperature that my body is supposed to withhold, so I need to go have a shower very soon. And then, well, what happens, you know. Played the game, didn't win.
Yeah, I mean, you were close though in race one, let's be honest, 600ths of a second down. Did you know that was the last lap in race one? Because it was very close with the line.
Yeah, I checked the timing, the remaining time. It's actually very, 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 very close. It must be 2 seconds or something like that. But yeah, last lap.
And obviously, you came out of it with a couple of podiums there, a podium in race one, podium in race two. Still, yes, no victory in that, but you've got to feel pretty happy with that moving forward in the championship. Maybe going to be able to challenge Alexander as the season rolls on.
We'll see. It seems like we have all round on and off now. Vince has had a terrible round, it seems, on the second race, so we're all back in the game. So it's probably till the end, till Nordschleife.
Well, Gal, thank you so much. You have a good evening. We'll let you go off and let you go have that shower.
Oh, thank you very much. Good job, Alejandro.
There we go. Gal Valero out of here, and he has our permission to go and have a shower. So at least there is that. We do also have Alexander Thieber joining us in the comments booth as well after an unbelievable round, the perfect round, qualifying on pole position, race 1 victory, race 2 victory. I mean, it seems simple on paper, but you had to put a lot of work in for that one. How's it feeling? And yeah, I'm sure you're sweating probably as much as Gar was.
Yeah, I guess I did. Yeah, it was really, really, really good. I didn't expect it to be like that, to be honest.
Now, obviously, there was a large gap between you and Vince coming into this round of the championship, right? Obviously, with what happened in Aragon, etc. This has completely reignited your championship challenge and has shown that the pace that you've got. Were you expecting Vince to maybe have an awkward round here? Was that on the cards, or were you just kind of doing what you were doing?
Actually not. I expected him to be up there. I don't know what went wrong today. But yeah, and I also didn't expect to be that good, to be that competitive here. I mean, my quali lap was really good, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the gap. I thought it was maybe I felt it was a good lap, but yeah, I thought it was maybe like a tenth faster than P2, but yeah, it was a bit more. And yeah, race 1 was really tough. I mean, we were fighting so hard. And yeah, shoutouts to the others, to Gael, Vince, Nicolas. It was really, really nice. It was super tough to defend. Yeah, it was. I've been always on the limit, and the others too. And yeah, I just can say a big thank you to Gael and the others. They kept it so safe and so fair. It was really enjoyable. So thank you for that.
It was also enjoyable from our point of view as well. It's fantastic racing in both of those. Obviously, next round we'll go to the Hockenheimring, which when you look at circuits like Rudskogen and Oulton Park to round out the main season here before we go to the Nürburgring, that are tight, twisty, difficult circuits, going to be really hard in that reverse grid. Hockenheimring is going to be one that's open for you to kind of do a similar thing potentially, where it's going to be a lot of slipstream. It's going to be a lot of weather where you can work your way through the field. How important is it to capitalise on that and make sure you get two good results from Hockenheim?
Wow. I mean, it's going to be hard, to be honest, to get two good results in Hockenheim, because I have the feeling that in Hockenheim you can't prepare the overtake maneuvers. You have less room to or less corners before the straight to make a move. Compared to Imola, which is pretty good here. You always have a chicane or 2 or 3 corners in a row to prepare a move onto the next straight, and there you have usually only one real corner to prepare, and it's gonna be difficult. But yeah, I just can do what I can do and see what happens.
Well, Alexander Tiber, thank you so much for joining us. 4 victories now in the season, 2 in this one evening. I have to see what you can do in the Hockenheimring. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
And there we go, Jack. Talking to our race, we're talking to Garvelair as well. A couple of podiums in the evening. Unbelievable performance there, and like I say, just very, very solid, very enjoyable.
And excellent racing all evening long. That was incredible to watch, incredible to commentate on. Alexander coming away with a double win is probably about as best of an evening as he could possibly pull off. So, Imola, an excellent circuit for racing. We said that at the start, and that has proven that all week or all evening long.
I mean, the pair of us jumped in today, not really expecting too much, I guess, and into the comments booth. And wow, we were provided with quite a fantastic evening of racing. We are back in a couple of weeks' time, though, when we go racing at the Hockenheimring. That's going to be a lot of fun, of course. Rudskogen, Oulton Park there to round out the main season. We'll get to that final race, that final championship round at the Nürburgring. Something very, very exciting. The championship has been set alight, though, courtesy of issues for Vince Peters, and an unbelievable round from Alexander Tiber. From Jack Stiles, obviously alongside myself, Lewis McDade in the comedy booth, we thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next time. If not, we'll see you around the NGK and NTK Esports Cup. Returns in a couple of weeks at Hockenheim, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.